Before we get started in this morning's live, first I would just like to thank everybody for tuning in. I think it's a sign of the angels as there's 12 people watching and 22 likes when we seen it up at the top. That's a beautiful start to live. But I just want to thank everybody for tuning in, as without all of you, this is not possible. And I think we're just starting to touch the surface of where we can actually get to, because we're starting to understand it's not just, and this isn't just from my perspective, but this is from a universal perspective in this great community that we're building. And we're starting to have this one brain mentality where if we can all push from our weakest link and out, we can start to actually achieve something. So I think the best way to approach this is every day you come in here, we have to look for the weakest link in the comments, the weakest link, so that we can know where we're starting to build in each daily session. So we'll see the questions, we'll see the understanding or lack thereof from some, and we won't get offended. We'll take it in a way where we can build off of each comment, whether we like them or not, because there's some insight into each side of it. So thank you. A lot to get into. We'll talk about, and I'm excited to talk about this, the Bitcoin, the 4-year cycle with Bitcoin. It's the peak cycle theory. I have a chart that I'll show, and then I'll read off a big long explanation that I put out on Facebook, and I put it in the Telegram too, with AI's help, of course, to get it written. But yeah, we'll talk about that. We will go through XRP and the rest of this to see if you have money on the sideline, when is the best opportunity to buy now, depending on target for you independently. But at the same time, realizing that I am not a financial advisor, and this is, at the end of the day, entertainment. So even if you disagree with what I say, it still has to come from your own understanding, and you have to do your own market research or your own basic research to where you know if it's something you want to do as a lateral or unilateral move with me. So we'll just start with that. We'll get into XRP, and we'll look at the zone and this pattern that started December 1st, because we're going to have to break out of this and now 8-day pattern before we can move out. So that's like from the most micro perspective. But a lot of things that we can say about holding over the weekend. And now, yes, we're right back in the same area as we started. I get that. And the move back up, all we're doing is trying to come back from the prior drop point, and we haven't quite got there yet. But the point is it didn't yield that $1.98 yet. So it gives you optics here going into Tuesday and Wednesday. Personally, I'm hoping that coming into this morning that this would have been a fake out, because I want it to be a sell the rumor, buy the news event when we get that rate cut. And I think the best opportunity for us would have been a pull down. Now, if we start pumping into the rate cut, I'm going to have this fear of, maybe if we push up, maybe it signals more of a 25 basis point rate cut, not a 50. And I would love to see a 50 basis point rate cut, but we'll get into this deeper, and we'll get into everything. And therefore, anything and everything. So if you know everything, you know nothing. And if you know nothing, you know everything. I'll tell you why after the intro. Good morning. 9:19 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Monday, December 8th, 2025. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. So if you know everything, you know nothing, because you're not open to anything because you think you know everything. That's a level of big-headedness. You got to find some integrity and therefore some humility. If you know nothing, you now know everything because you're open to the possibility of every single thing that could possibly come at you. It's interesting when you think about it that way. The Cannabis Podcast, welcome and thanks for being in Tom's Arm for 6+ months and with the XRP Predictor. And I was looking for you in particular this morning. Did you see what, and I know you did because I believe you talked about it in one of your lives. Did you see what they snuck into the plan to get the government reopened? With the hemp seed, when I read through it, it's type, well, you would know the name, so I don't even need to explain it, but the THC, the tetra, but anyhow, it can only be below 0.3%. So they snuck that in on that bill to reopen us. And reading through it, I was like, I know there was something in this. And I remember you talking about something about it. So I looked deeper into it last night, and it's the tetra, because in the hemp seed, you can only have, it's going to be like the UK. But anybody who knows anything about that, that percentage can be minute. It has nothing to do. If you're a good grower, you can oversee. That's just, that's where we're going right now. And what that does is that gets rid of the retail grower and it puts it all into the corporation, aka big government. It doesn't go into effect for 1 year, gives them time to reschedule. That's true. Tetrahydrocannabinol. That's it. Thank you. I knew you'd know what the name of it. I didn't want to abolish the name. But anyhow, it was interesting what they snuck in there to open the government. You know, there's always a rhyme and reason for what they're doing. Anyhow, let's not take our focus off. But I appreciate you chiming in and being in here for sure. Dan, welcome in, along with My Yard Now and Garbanzo. Thanks for being in Tom's Army for 3+ months with the XP Meteor. Good morning to you, friends, and Bright Future Freedom as well for 3+ months. And Garbanza says that Bitcoin macro chart Tom just posted really puts the market in perspective of what could be coming. I did it for a reason. I don't know if that's going to be the overshadowing the way it plays out, because the one thing I will say in each of the previous 3 times that we've been in this is the 4th time now, there's one differing factor. We've never been so oversold in the weekly. That's going to be our one big difference. We were so over the top. So that's a big distinction we're going to have to make and see what's going to happen. Defined, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army 6+ months with the XP Predictor, along with Timothy Perez. And Defined, thanks for being a very trusted mod in here and in the Telegram. Says, hi, everyone. Hit that like on the way in. Consider subscribing and joining Tom's Army for the best technical analysis on YouTube. Every day you are not in the Telegram, you are missing out. Why wait? I love the message. I love the message. Love it. I can't disagree. Crypto Cooter, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army 6+ months with the XP Predictor and being a very trusted mod in here and in the Telegram. Good morning to you, my friend. Mick Shoot, good morning, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year at the I Told You So Badge, along with UK Phil, my man, and Glenn Barlow. Thank you all for being in Tom's Army for over 3+ months with the XP Meteor. My mates from the UK, a couple of them, UK Phil and Glenn Barlow from England. I love it. I love it. Totally awesome. Good morning to you as well, my friend. I think we're almost caught up here. Big Dog, Poppy Lou. Thanks for being in Tom's Army 6+ months with the XP Predictor. 1970 legend, the resident Buckeye in the house. Thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. And also a very trusted mod in here, my friend. I can't thank you enough for keeping it real. Ben Graham, good morning. Mosey here, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 2 years with the XP 589 Moon Badge, along with CJ2 Pilot. How about that? Bright Future says, so like I said yesterday, watching coins that run opposite. If we do this failing out on the Bitcoin macro chart, or falling out on the Bitcoin macro chart, do they say true and keep rising for fall with Bitcoin? Well, we're going to go through all of that. Let's see. Banks have already been sending out letters to all sellers. I seen that when they passed the bill and snuck it in. Oh, I know, it sucks. It's not a cool thing. Anyhow, Jason, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army 2nd month with the Dusty's Out House Crypto News. Okay, so let's get into some of this, and then I can look through the questions. I see an XDC one. So it's like, where would you buy in, right? Well, if this is still in a megaphone, like I've been saying, until this breaks, I feel like this would be the floor support, because in this megaphone pattern, if this is a megaphone, this should be bullish because this pulled up within here. But I guess it could be a neutral continuation because you did come down from the top and then you rose from the, so it's basically neutral right now. But that would mean, and I always talk about trying to buy within 20% of the actual bottom. And this would put you within 11.6%. But then you have to ask yourself, what's the reasoning for buying? Is it the right positioning? And if it fell out and worst case scenario happened, yeah, we can always talk worst case scenario. But one thing I don't like to do is when the 4 hourly is that overbought and stochastic going into a Monday, as we get into the bend the US over hours, which happen on Monday morning and every day during the week from about 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to somewhere around 10 to 10:30 because you have to give grace sometimes, especially on a Monday. But usually that's about the we're going to steal the US's money, retrace, and then we're just going to do what we had plans to do when everybody gets scared, sells out, or goes ballistically insane. So that's where we're at in the morning. So am I particularly happy about where it's at this morning? I mean, I could have been more unhappy. The one thing I can say is it bounced down to that 201 and held, came back out, got over this resistance now, and now if we can push out of here, it's going to finish off this move. And look, we've already drawn it out just in case. It took a little longer to expand out, but this would be the tricky inverse reversal. And we've talked about how it could have been setting up something sneaky, but now we're going to have to sustain this into the morning trading session because there's going to be a lot of volatility, especially going into the 9th. The 9th, which is tomorrow, believe it or not, starts the 2-day meeting, the FOMC meeting to discuss the federal funds, whether they're going to raise, hold the same, or lower rates, which I firmly believe they're going to lower rates. Remember in the beginning of this whole thing for this rate, they had like a 28% chance or whatever that they were going to raise rates, and I laughed because they ended quantitative tightening on the 1st of December. So if you raise rates, you basically are going to be printing money and then paying more over that. It's just not going to happen. But in history, not just 2019. That's a great comment. Who said that? Big Dog, thanks for being in town already 6+ months with the XP Predictor. Said 2019 had QT pass in October and Bitcoin crapped the bed 2 months later. And it was in October. Maybe I'm wrong, but that had a lot of history repeating. Well, also in 2023, when they ended quantitative tightening for about 2 to 3 months from that March, everything was not doing well after they went from quantitative tightening to easing. It took until about June. It was in 23 when that happened for XRP, and we had the announcement that the lawsuit was eventually over. And then they retracted the statement, and then it crashed back down. But that's when we had that big burst up. But that was approximately 3 months, 2 to 3 months after the quantitative tightening flipped to easing. So it takes a couple months to finally put into effect. But in 2019, it was kind of the opposite because it had a surge. And then after a couple months, it literally, we went into a crypto winter that we didn't come out of until, well, we still haven't come out of. Let's just put it that way. A lot of people don't believe that, but look at your altcoins. They haven't come out of anywhere. XRP, even if you are appreciative of where it's at right now, and it's doing a lot better than 21's floor for sure, and the 23 floor, but if you want to put it in perspective, XRP in 2017 or 18 was $1.50 higher than it is now. So who's getting played? The long holders? The ones who are time in market or the ones timing the market? See, that's always the big thing. Do you time the market or is it timing or is it the time in the market? I am a person who believes you have to time the market to have that time in the market be proper. Otherwise, you're going to have the time in the market, but it's going to be during a bull, bear, and it doesn't make any sense. You're only supposed to be in a market from a bear to a bull. Then you're supposed to take profit unless you really believe that you want to sit there for 20 years and do the same thing over and over until we get to the next level. That's why bull to bear, bear to bull, and until it breaks into new levels. And right now, XRP, that's why you can't sell. Because we're in a bear, but the bear didn't come under $1 except on Binance. But on average, it was $1.16. So what are you gonna do? Some people are waiting for it to go into the ultimate bear. I hate to break it to everybody. We're in the bear. So it's not going to be as low as everybody thinks for XRP. We're in the bear. The bear is defined by 20% or more down from the market cycle top. And then once you get to 30%, you've confirmed that this bear market's extended. Well, Bitcoin or XRP from the top, even today, look at it, it's down 42%. We are clearly in a bear market. But think about it, for the first time in its history, a bear market that it held is over $2. That's what you want. This is what you want. I've been talking about this for many months, so it's not like we just came on today, but it's a good thing to highlight. So, and that's not just XRP. Even if you go into Bitcoin, it's down, 28% now from the top. A lot of other things, though, XRP is actually faring pretty well. Like, do you really want me to show you what IOTA's doing or Algo or some of these other ones? You're going to be like, oh my God, we've been in a bear market since, well, when did he talk about the bear market? In January? Yeah, some things had top cycle pushes, but look, that was XRP. I mean, look at from the top. Does this look like a bull market? IOTA's down 83% from the top. And somebody bought that 1 year ago. Yes, this sounds like a great bull market. Maybe everybody was wrong, huh? This looks like you know what this looks like to me? The accumulation phase till XRP just overran the market. So XRP isn't a bear market, but now it leveled up. The rest of these didn't level up because they didn't get the chance yet. They haven't. So the bull market's going to look a lot different for some of these than it does for XRP. Let me tell you right now. Algo, when it peaked, down 78%. That doesn't seem like a bull market to me. The facts are the facts. So everybody's saying that we're going to go into a bear market. Like, where have you been? We've been in a crypto winter. We might be coming out of said crypto winter. So again, when's a good time to buy? Honestly, you have to make that decision, but I can tell you there's opportunity if this holds. We talked about it yesterday. XDC down 66%. Does that seem like a bull market? Or does this just seem like a continued accumulation phase that XRP did before a big run? And that the bull market's a lot different than everybody might think. This bull market, and everybody's pessimistic, right? Where did XRP's price start at? 32 cents. So I guarantee nobody thought it'd be up at $2 right now, already consolidating 48 or 52% or whatever the hell it's been. So give some grace. What does your technical analysis tell you? Is this a cup and handle? Because when XRP got down here on the handle, everybody got scared. Now everything's in that we're literally about firing stage. We don't know if it comes down for another drop or not, but I can tell you at some point, if you have a lot of capital, there's going to come the day when this all of a sudden plays out. It was a Bitcoin cycle, only 5%. Alts did the same thing in 2019. If you look at 2019 chart, it matches 2025. I know there's a lot of similarities, but with the market of 2019, because technically you had like a 2-year stutter into 2021 before we had any real, or actually it was peak 2020, and then we had a big pull down, but then we had a nice, movement. But that's if you start looking at these from macro perspective, guys, we're going to have to identify. We're all going to have to identify. Hate to say it, an influencer named Jam said we were in a bear market since December. Yeah, hate to say it, but I've also been saying it too. So, hello. Why doesn't anybody say, hate to say it, Tom said we're in a bear market? Nope, got to bring somebody else into my house. But I respect the person. Who was it? An influencer called Jam. Said we were in a bear market since December. Absolutely. No, I don't want the cloud. I was just, I guess that was inner jealous Tom coming out. See, that's bad, Tom. Got to get rid of that guy for next year. That's my goal. No more of that guy. We should be praising. Who was that again? Jam? See, that's a good person. Jam was saying bear market. That's somebody on our side. See, we need to look at it through the positive. Love it. Actually, that gives me a little hope that somebody else is in it for the right reason, or at least looking at it from the right perspective. Who shared that? No, it's the opposite, Brian. No alt season. No, that means you have alt season to look forward to still. Reverse the mindset where it got negative because of the conversation and think about it. If we've been in a bear cycle since in December, I agree that's where it was, but January is when it actually, well, some things it formed in December, but some things took until January, and then we came up and topped again in July. I like the December, January, just it took a little bit of time. I do like that December, though. Anybody who had the mindset and the understanding to understand, because I felt like I was on an island. Anybody who had that understanding and foresight, that's a good, that only helps us. Honestly, that only, and don't be afraid to say it. Be happy to say it. You should be proud to say it that somebody else actually knows what the hell they were looking at. That actually gives me hope. To be fair, Tommy, you've been saying we never started alt season this entire year. I know. I've been saying it. But that's one of the good things about putting out 6,300 videos. I don't hold anything I'm thinking. So, I mean, I can just go back here, over 11 months ago now. That's the video that got me in a lot of trouble with my audience. I wouldn't have sold all that if it was still in a bull market. And then, then we had to do it again a few weeks later. I would love to go back to that time period. Oh, I would love to go back to that time period. And just see, anyhow. So I want to go over this real quick because I know I've taken a lot of time already. 23 minutes, that can't be right. Is that right? I mean, I guess it is right. I talk so damn much. I also have a syllabus that I want to show everybody, like an idea of the class. I worked very hard on this. Very, very hard. So, this would be the Bitcoin cycle. I actually, you know what? We can look at it like this because I can start drawing on it too. And then we'll go into what I wrote. So, this is the Bitcoin cycle. Actually, I should probably read it so that you can get a fundamental understanding. I literally just broke it down and had AI reword it for me because I was writing with a bunch of mistakes. But I literally just was breaking it down from the standpoint of, I would love for everybody to be in this Telegram. We have one member away from 500. How many messages have there been now? 51,450 in just the community hub. Holy smokes. So I put the Bitcoin 4-year cycle and the 1,420-day peak theory. A deep analysis of Bitcoin's historical price action reveals a fascinating and highly consistent pattern tied to the passage of time. This theory suggests that the cryptocurrency's major market tops, the points of the highest price before a significant correction, occur on a surprisingly reliable schedule. The underlying force for this pattern is widely attributed to the Bitcoin halving event, which occurs approximately every 4 years, dramatically impacting the rate of new supply entering the market. The consistent 1,420-day rhythm, historical data from the last 3 major bull market cycles shows a striking consistency in the duration between successive market peaks, all-time highs. Cycle 1 to cycle 2, the duration separating the first and second major cycle peaks was approximately 1,450 days. Cycle 2 to cycle 3, the duration between the second and third major cycle peaks was remarkably close, clocking in at around 1,420 days. This recurring window of 1,420 to 1,050 days strongly indicates that Bitcoin's largest price surges operate on a fixed time-based clock, independent of external economic news or events. Each of these peaks was historically followed by a massive bear market correction, typically seeing prices drop in the range of 75 to over 80%. Projection for the next top 2025. By extrapolating this established historical cadence, analysts can project the next likely peak of the current bull market, the calculation applying a similar time frame, roughly 1,430 days from the most recent cycle top, pointing to a significant event horizon. The result, this calculation projects that the next major cycle top will occur in the year 2025. And then summary of the significance. This time cycle theory is a crucial tool for long-term investors. It highlights that the most powerful growth phases in Bitcoin are followed by predictable multi-year it was supposed to be retracements or retrenchments. I guess I'll take it in the trenches. The 1,420-day marker serves as a critical historical indicator, suggesting when the current explosive growth phase may be nearing its climax before the next inevitable market correction begins. Now, Tom is not only honest, he's also transparent. Most influencers aren't either one, and there's a big difference. Oh, I appreciate that. Bright, so funny. I hope Tom sees that. What did Bright say? What did I miss? Is it on the Telegram? Or is it in here? Define, say it again. To be fair, define, say it again for the people in the back. October's. Hey, Bright, thanks for being in Tom's Arm for 3+ months with the X-Free Meteor, too. Sorry, I'm so focused in right now. It's like I almost can't. I want to be bothered by the comments so bad, but I gotta focus, otherwise I'm gonna lose my focus. So let's go here. If you want to see more in the Telegram, it's a phenomenal thing. Defined. Let's see. What did you think of? I didn't read your comment, but what did you think about the syllabus I sent you? And that's not even as in depth as it goes. It actually breaks down one more layer as you get into each individual session, but that's just what I would be passing out to everybody so they'd have an idea. All the nuts and bolts within each class, though, it gets even more descriptive. So if we come through here, let's take out our handy dandy drawing ability. Let's see. Where's my pen? Aha. There we go. We're going to need, I guess we could do blue, but it's probably going to need to be a little bit. Let's get rid of that. Should we do a fine tip? Oh, we can't do that. That's not what I thought it was. So we're going to have to use this. Oh, I kind of like that. It's small. So now it's be easier to see. Oh, thank you, Define. Would it be can I go onto your Telegram when I want to show it? Even though I won't show all of your stuff, I'll just try to show it from like, otherwise I'm gonna have to resend it because I think I have it all on my phone right now. Oh, I've been working on this for weeks, as you can see. Oh, thank you, Define. So, okay, so with Bitcoin, when we started here in 2020, you can see how it comes through the pattern. It finally breaks down, but it's been on a steady rise up the whole time, right? But we can see the time frames, and now right now we're within that time frame. So if we end up extending through, you're just in the beginning of the correction if it breaks down. Now, I will tell you, in this cycle, it's not the same as this cycle. Does anybody know the difference? What's the one key difference? That's my point. What's the one big difference here? I'm not saying we're going into a full-blown bear market. Just don't, Timothy, slow down. Slow down. This is what I'm trying to say. What's the big difference here? Nope, it has nothing to do with institutions or any of that nonsense. Because institutions, I hate to break it to you, are more interested in 2012 than they are in 2025. Fact. I like that, Daniel, holding highs. Okay. Yes, one person said it doesn't end in fear, Garbanzo. But the other thing is, It's never, ever, 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 ever signaled the top when the weekly was massively oversold, let alone the monthly being oversold. It's not, it's always been massively overbought when we got into the weekly, especially on Bitcoin when we topped. And right now we can see with the stochastic, Bitcoin is not only oversold, it's massively oversold, and in fact breaking more bullish. The monthly, Bitcoin's essentially in oversold right now. Now, I will warn you that moving average convergence divergence could be speaking of something to come here in the short term. Flipping red for the first time in the monthly since, I mean, that's something to pay attention to. This is the first time that it flipped red since it flipped back green in July of 2023. Is it odd or convenient timing that it finally flipped red at the 1,420 day mark? Is that convenience? And yes, that's another thing, Frankie Fresh. We never back tested that low. There's a couple things we didn't do here that gives me hope that this isn't the end. We're just going to have a different kind of cycle here. Because technically we would want Bitcoin to go into a bear market, but we've never had this precedent where we hadn't had an alt run. And everybody's like, we did have an alt run. Yeah, but the alt run we had was shit. We didn't even come close to 2021 highs besides a few of them. And the only reason XRP did is I firmly believe it had built up aggression, and it was all by design because they knew, to think about it, they knew they could have all this NXS capital that wasn't going to be going into these other alt tokens in a traditional alt sense. So the reason they were able to, and this is another conspiracy that might make your heart pump a little faster on why XRP moved and was able to in that exact moment, is the fact that other altcoins weren't moving. So all that added money was going into XRP alt sector. So it allowed it to get into these levels. And now that we went back to a neutral, that push up that it allowed us may be the difference between it ever coming back down to the lower levels while the other ones are suffering. You know, I'm a little nervous right now because of how we started Monday. I'm a little nervous too because we're just not seeing the volume spike. But am I concerned that we're never going to have a push up here in the next 10 years? No, I'm not concerned about that at all. Because I still think there's going to be the grand blow off the top. Michael Saylor's so far underwater right now. If not underwater in the sense of his average buy price, but underwater in the sense of he started like his own Bitcoin treasury, and it's like I can't think of another treasury that started negative. So the good news about this is if you're a fan of XDC, you get to kind of watch the market run in front of you for a day or two and see what happens. Now, we're overextended in XDC. The daily caught up being oversold, the weekly's oversold, and the monthly's coming down. So we're oversold in those regards. We're trying to confirm a breakout back to 5-1, which we're at that area right now where we're trying to figure it out. See how it came back down, back tested just slightly, and it's trying to see. But we're starting to get overbought in a pretty interesting way in the 1 hours, a lot of the 4 hourlies, right at the right time in the morning for the USA where it creates maximum volatility. I agree. I think the only reason why XRP moved is because of how held back it was for so long. I think this should be XRP bear market price, maybe a little lower to 150. The good news is we already hit $1.50. So, you know, and the other good news is we fell below $1.50 for one brief moment. That's why it's a tricky setup here. I want to know from everybody, because I'm going to put this chart on here for all times now. It's the XDC XRP chart. And we'll continue to talk about this. When you're looking for opportunity in markets, you're looking for historical setups compared to other things. Is XDC not at a incredibly low level, getting ready for a move because it's actually at, and I haven't shown this chart in a while. Remember we drew this out and we said we'd revisit when it was important? This is a little bit off. Not by much, but it was a little bit off. But we said we'd revisit when it was important. It's important because everybody needs to ask themselves this question. So if we're looking for, and this, I don't mean you don't need this. This was a short term, but see how long it took, and it's still consolidating that point, getting to the apex. So this is verse XRP. The one interesting thing that I found fascinating is the weekly is that overbought in this chart. The monthly, on the other hand, yeah, it's hard to find a time in its history where it struggled like this for that long. It's just the weekly has always got me. So it could just be that we're getting ready for an exorbitant move here versus XRP. The monthly's telling us, like, what are you waiting for? While the weekly's been correcting, the price has, but the weekly has just been, and it's a pretty interesting phenomenon here, if you ask me. I think it's an interesting phenomenon. Get out of here. You go up top. But this is the XDC versus XRP pairing. And look how oversold it is versus XRP. Like, this is historic. This is a historical moment right now, how low it is. You may never see it, this ratio, ever again once it breaks out of it. Like, this is, in my opinion, this might be the steal of the century. When everybody's looking at XRP in time, the returns on this, I believe, is going to be greater. But I don't know when it's going to start. That weekly leaves a little bit of opportunity here versus XRP. Like, you're building into it. Like, you're building into a big opportunity. It's actually at the bottoming part of this formation. Where's this weekly support at? If it had to come back down, just out of curiosity. Because we already hit it, though. This has, I think it has to move up a little bit to match. Yeah, it's not up all the way. I missed it. Not by much. It's hard to see on the weekly. That's going to have to go back down there just so it's easier to see for a second. I'm going to have to do this. And we're going to have to do this. I'm going to have to do this. Okay. I'll teach you how to do all of this in the class. Oh, it's going to be phenomenal. That's going to be something you guys can't even believe that I'm doing. And it's for a reason. One, it's to secure my son's future because he's special needs, and I know he's never going to be able to work. He's autistic. He's nonverbal. I mean, who knows? He might be able to, but he had a lot of injuries when he was 6 months old, head injury, broke his femur in a bad car accident, yada, 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 so on and so forth. So I have one of two choices. I can either do this on my own and work a second job, or I can go be an advisor somewhere and then take away from my time, the personal time. So, but this is going to be extraordinary. The only reason I would say it does seem like we're building a little bit of a bearish bias towards XRP. So I don't know, because typically what ends up happening is XRP would have this, like, let's say it has a 20% move. It would have it the day before. It's usually a day ahead of the candle for XDC. So you actually have a beautiful, way to watch this. I love XDC. Like, I'm a huge fan of XDC. So you have there, and here. And I've been thinking, and you guys know my portfolio situation. There's a few things I hold, but I always reevaluate when we're about to have a drop. So I'm reevaluating right now exactly how I want to do, especially when in the accumulation phase, when no money's been made. All of the ones that I sold out now shouldn't have incurred a capital gains hit because they were either equal to where we had bought in or we just sold out from the last small consolidation because we figured there was another drop that ended up happening. And now it's been, the thing is though, is even on the pairing, you can see how big of a drop we've actually had for XDC. Even if you look at the pairing sense, just from November 23rd, we've had versus XRP a 15.9% drop. So an opportunity for sure. If it comes down here, it's about another 9.8% or so. I'm not mad about this at all. At all. So, and the other thing I've been thinking about is the fact when my son's at school, the night times are not the best opportunity for the lives. It's when he's at school. So an hour live, there might be the opportunity instead of doing an hour, maybe we can do two when he's at school and just put it all in and play at once. So that's another thing I have to figure out from a market standpoint. What's the best approach? Because I've been putting out content now for the hearing and visually impaired on YouTube. So that does take up time. That video I put out yesterday, it might have only been 3 minutes, but it took me like almost an hour to set it all up. Is the direct tie to R3, which are the big banks institutions make up R3. I believe XTC will be more valuable than XRP or XLM in the future. What do you think? When everybody says one thing, go with the other. I'm on the same page as you, my friend. 100%. Couldn't disagree. Actually, I should say I couldn't agree freaking more. So for anybody in here who has heard me talk about this class and yada, 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 just to show you I'm not dicking with you about how in-depth this is going to be. This is just from the start. So this would be the technical analysis, professional technical analysis course. It's 4 months. The course title would be the Technical Analysis Mastery Foundations to Strategy. It'd be 4 months, 32 sessions, frequency twice a week, 60 minutes per lesson. Target audience would be the absolute beginners. And the core goal would be build confidence in fundamental chart reading and develop a disciplined risk management approach to trading across different market types. Month 1, and this takes time, you would have to dedicate with me. And once the class is closed, you can't join another class unless I start a second one, which probably wouldn't happen until I repeat this 4 months later for anybody who wants to do it the second time around. And some people are going to do it again over and over and over. I already know this. And we're going to keep repeating this until we get into the advanced stage and we get through every single person who wants to learn. So in month 1, we're going to talk chart literacy and price action fundamentals. 8 sessions. Week 1, introduction to the market environment, 2 times 60-minute sessions. Session 1, the trading environment and terminology. And the content would be defining financial markets, stocks, crypto, forex, understanding the spread, bid versus ask, basic platform navigation, terminology, long and short, P&L, which is profit and loss, learning outcome, navigate the charting platform, and define basic market terms. In the second session, we would talk about price history, time and scale, content, the charts, all this other good stuff you could read through. And the second week, but it might not go this quick, guys. This is a 4-month course. But if there's people that are stuck on the first week for 6 weeks, we're only going as fast as the weakest link. You have to understand that. So this is set for a 32 class course, but it could end up turning into a 50 class course. I don't know. It would be a set schedule. This has nothing to do with YouTube, nothing to do with Telegram, nothing to do with any of my other stuff. This is an independent business venture that I will be doing 1099 and yada, yada, yada. But yeah, it's going to be at its own time. It's going to be on its own platform. I'm probably going to use the professional Zoom, the business Zoom is probably the way we're going to have to do it because I can save lesson plans and do it. But anyhow, that's still a processing. So this is just, and it goes through a whole big thing. And then, we get into, it takes 24 sessions to get into bowling bands, the moving averages and all that other more advanced stuff. But this is a literal step by step by step by step. And then this is just guidance. Like it's not going to look like this. This I copied out of what I made. But then it's going to be each week, it's going to be even more detailed than that. It breaks it down even deeper. That's just something I sent to Fine so that he could see. Oh, absolutely. You'll be able to rewatch the classes. That's why I need to do it through Zoom Business and pay for the business part because I can store every single one of them and I can do up to, I don't remember how many hours it was, but it was like 3 or 4 times the amount that I was planning. So, but yeah, you'll be able to rewatch everything. 100%. It's going to be just like you were taking an online course. I actually went through and tried to learn how they did it for online classes now at colleges and things like that. So I went through like a beginner course to learn how to do training sessions over the new algorithm, let's just say. When I get old, I want to drive around really slow and make people late for work, like my grandfather. Oh, that is a good goal. The problem for us though is when we get old, we might not be able to drive anymore. They might have made it all self-driving. That's the freaky part. Should you buy XDC now? I'm not usually inclined to buy something when the stochastic is so oversold, if I may say. I mean, overbought. This is extremely overbought to head into a Monday. So what it likely suggests is we're going to get some emotion here, and we got to look for some kind of consolidation at some point. But it could come at 5.4 or 5.1. But honestly, until it gets over this point, you're stuck in a consolidation. So you're either going to want to buy it down here, and this is what I would tell everybody honestly. You would either want to buy it at 4.4, or when it breaks over the top and gets back into this pattern consolidation and proves this to be true, somewhere under 5.2 here. You can make a close move here if it breaks out at 4.99, which is the question right now, but you got to wait for a verified breakout, which it could be doing right now, but we have to make sure this holds. And then you could ride it up to the 200 in the 2-hourly, and that puts us right at 5.1. So we'll just see how it gets through the morning, but we just got to make sure it holds here. Tom, I don't know if you know this, but look into XDC R3 private permissional subnets. XDC has pivot subnets as L2s that have the ability to be L1 and L0 to add all the payment arms like XRP. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is great information. I can't believe you took the time to write this. All the other networks are public ledgers. XD3/R3 is the only hybrid private public networks out. Absolutely. You are unbelievably awesome. Yeah, Frankie Fresh, I think it's going to be Zoom. Because with what I'm going to pay for, I can have up to 300 people in there at once. And we're not going to have anywhere near 300 people. So, absolutely. But totally awesome. I can't believe you took the time for that. I'm honestly generally impressed with your knowledge. That's another thing I need to show more clarity towards, the thankfulness of some of this knowledge you guys share. I know I do some, but like that's really cool. Timothy, thanks for being in town on 6+ months with the XP Predictor and saying you're stoked for these courses. I appreciate it. And some people might hate it because it's going to have to come with, no, it's not a $500 price tag or anything. It's just $50 for the month. And you get 8 classes a month for the $50 until you want to cancel. I mean, I think you might have, you'll probably have the option on the payment processor that I decide, but it's just pretty simplistic. What is that, like $6 and something cents per class? Can't even get into the gym for that. But no, it's something that I have to do, and it's either I figure it out on my own, or I have to go work for somebody else. Well, I'll still do this on YouTube, but I have to make a new income for my son. And because Julie, she doesn't have the ability. She got into that accident with my son, and she's had 7 surgeries now on her ankle. They took out her talus bone and built it with the cadaver and bone grafts. Yeah, it's really bad. So, and she got really, yeah, it sucks for her. Because she was working a job for 11 years and she was about to be promoted. She worked with kids like T, ironically, our son. So she did that for 11 years as behavioral tech and working with the kids with special needs. And then she got into the office part, and then she had a job for a promotion. We just went and bought her a nice outfit because we didn't have a lot of money. But we bought her a nice outfit for her because she was being interviewed. It was like her big break. And then that next day was her accident the next morning, ironically, with my son. So, as she was on her way to work. But things all happen for a reason, as they say. So God was preparing her for what was to come. XRP in the 30-minute, slightly bearish. Now it can atone for this easily because now we're back into oversold, which is good. We're just trying to make sure if we have an overrun that we hold 207 now. What makes me laugh is Jake Scamming Claver says XDC goes to $5 to $50, $5 to $50 max. The dude is an asshat. He's saying 5 to 50. Let's focus on 25 cents, Cleaver. No, he should be talking about that for XRP. XDC, on the other hand, if you want to be realistic, I can show you realistic. It's not going to be Jake Cleaver realistic, but it's going to be honest realistic. This is honest realistic why I like XDC at these prices. And this isn't where I think it's going to go all time, but this is where it's built in to go to. He's talking about $5 to $50 for views. 20% of my audience is going to leave, but I'm talking about 27 cents and ultimately 36 cents in a perfect move on that cup and handle being built. The handle should bring it to 27.8. Same thing I did for silver as it was working it out. And then 36.2 cents for the peak in the cup and handle. But now, as you see with the cup and handle, how XRP played out of its, now you have to see how it builds in the consolidation. So if we go from 36 to 27 on a consolidation, or at least maintain now, you know, somewhere in that threshold. Let's say we break out and we do this properly, and all of a sudden we're back testing 13.7. We come up to 20, we come back down, we go back up. By the time we get to 27.8, maybe we back test 20, go up to 30, you know, and do this the proper way. Then we can build from here. But this is realistically, guys, this is what's actually happening. I went all the way out on all of this. Remember XRP's chart when I was begging everybody to be paying attention and buy? You know what? I've talked myself into it again. I'm talking myself right back into, you know, just putting my nuts on the board, setting them on the table. But I can't do it when it's this overbought in the short term. But I don't know how many tokens I'm going to have. Before it was 300,000. There's a real chance that I might be upping XDC and just saying the hell with a lot of other things. Like my prime objective here is XDC, Algo. I already have the XRP. I already have the XRP Healthcare. I already have Epic. And that is a reason. I'm trying to... So, how XDC... And this is why I like longer lives. Because we're at 52 minutes. Normally, I'd be saying, you know what? I'm almost done. I think it would be beneficial for us to do... I'm going to go talk to Julie real quick. Sorry about that. I wanted to ask her something. I love that he is who he is and can just walk off screen and do live, come back and be focused. Yeah, that, you know, that's just the way it goes. Taught myself that. A good sign here this morning. I mean, if you're a fan of mining stocks, maybe not a good sign. We might have finally started hitting that topping area that nobody wants to talk about. But I just in the short term. But this is good going into rate cuts. We want to see deep diving. We just want to see diving. And this is good for risk on. That means if risk off is consolidating, see how it's reversing? And gold, which we need to. We've talked about the fact that it's going to have to at some point validate this uptrend. And because it took so long, it's either 4,158 now. And I only talk about this because this is important for crypto. If risk on, or risk off, son of a bitch. If risk off, people are selling out and feeling more confidence, money can find its way into risk on. And how convenient is this dumping right before the rate cuts? If we get that proper rate cut, gold's going to like it after. It might not be right away, but maybe it's setting up for the rate cut and it's coming to support and then it's going to shoot up to 44. But that also puts it in another dynamic. You know, right now we're back testing the potential breakout. So this makes perfect sense. If it holds this, we're going to put it into the apex zone though. which would put it right about here. That would give gold 4,586. But I'm not surprised that these are dumping out right now. We had a big move last week, but we'll see. Traditionally on Monday, we get a lot of this, a lot of noise on Mondays. So we'll see if that's coming to support and crypto's coming to resistance, or we're having a flip right now. Because eventually we will. I promise. Eventually we're going to have a flip. XDC is my privacy that I add the XRP Credit Union Bank arm to leverage it. That's my plan at least. Hey, I don't hate that. I don't hate that. My biggest bags and what I'm banking on is XDC and XPR. I have some XRP and said, screw XLM, laugh out loud. Algo is cool, but I could care less. XPR does anything. I'll need to be my own private bank. I don't disagree with that. And if XPR was on KRAKEN, I would, if it was easier for me to access with the exchanges that I use, I would be all in on it. It's just disappointing to me that still, to my knowledge, it's not on there. I would look into the only other one that I would suggest, because not everybody's going to be a fan of algo. Some could argue by having XRP, you don't even need to have algo. I just like it at the price points that it's going to end up being at, or where it's teasing right now. But I would highly encourage you to look into Stronghold a little bit, because you're very informed on like the credit unions, how XPR is going to be the front for that. But look into, because of the areas that you like, make sure you look into Stronghold. I think you would like SHX and what it has to offer. I know there's a lot of tokens, but I think you would be somebody who could get into it. Like you said, it's not time to buy yet. It's debatable. For me, no. Not yet. Because to me, it's proving right now that it's bearish unless it gets back over this. It's got a dot cross forming in the short term. Almost looks like it's front running because the rest of the market's in this kind of a structural move right now. This did it first. It makes me feel like it needs to continue this breakdown. I'm looking personally for a drop, hopefully to 008 if it plays out. Potentially 7-1 to finish that. I don't think it's coming to 4-7 though. I'll be honest. I think it's more likely to hold 8-1 than come down to 4-7. Weekly, I would suggest that it's curving up, but now it's going to require a back test to prove. So I expect some kind of consolidatory back test. Now, how big of a back test? Or it's always debatable at this point. 4 hourly is kind of in a range where it can kind of do whatever it wants. But as of right now, it's showing a rejection on that short pattern that goes back. It's kind of like the XRP one. This one goes back about 10 days or so. MQT did excellent. MQT is a very smart person. He would know about it. Stronghold 2 was nice because it had a nice move up from the 7-8 area. We were buying it right there. We're selling it up here to watch to see if it comes back down to retest or break lower. But there's going to be a point where I'm not doing this back and forth again. It's not the right time for me. But let's see. I don't think XPR was added. Now, is there a scenario where I would go to an exchange I hate? No. Unfortunately. So for me, the trading has basically become, okay, I can put a few things that I had from the non-tier 1 exchanges when I was using them, like Epic. I can throw that into crypto.com because I can just hold it there. I'm not planning on selling it for a very long time. And by the time it does, by the time, okay. I like H-bar. It's not that I don't want to hold H-bar. It's that for me to hold H-bar, it has to finish something off, just like the same reasons that I talked about with a couple others. H-bar, I don't hate H-bar at all. Not in the very least. But remember where we sold it, if I would have bought it back here, that would have been a good starting point. But the fact that I was on other things, and mainly because I paid attention to IOTA, which had my full-blown attention, and then trying to do the rest. But no, I love H-bar, but what I'm looking for H-bar, if I'm being realistic with myself, is I need to see if it holds this structure right now. And if it doesn't, I feel like I'm going to get an opportunity when it retests to make a new lower low if the market does it. I don't know if we're going to do that. That's all speculation and conjecture and could be bullshit logic on my part. Because the weekly, here's the thing in my philosophy that could shit it. Yes, the weekly is below the 200-day, which leads a little bit of credibility, but the fact we're so oversold in the weekly could shoot a hole in my philosophy here. That's why I'm trying to be I'm paying attention in a very interesting way. So whatever way this leads me down, it's going to be for a reason, and it's meant to be. So I already in my mind have two different scenarios where I'm okay with. One of the scenarios is it's overly blown on XDC, and I'm not talking the 200,000 or the three. I'm talking like it would take a big arm. And for algo, I have this talk with myself. So XDC is out. I mean, XDC. XLM is out, in my opinion. I don't have any room for it. I love XLM. But if I was going to hold XLM, I think I would sell all of my XRP and put it all into XLM. And I don't want to say I've been considering that, but I've been considering that because I kind of want to be the guy against the grain, but I am XRP future millionaire after all. So I don't know if I could. But it would just be another way that it's helped me evolve because you're at all-time lows on the XLMX. I mean, look at this. It's embarrassing. This is beyond embarrassing. You know, this is not embarrassing. This is beyond embarrassing. This is where we pointed to the inverse setup where it was about to break back out. This is the last real time that we talked about this pairing. Look at that. We talked about this. It was the inverse pattern ready to move. And then it had the breakout, and now we've just been consolidating. We've come down from that move. It's much like XDC is the XRP. Now, someone could make the case that this is never going to break back into those areas. Maybe not to the top, but 33%, that's in a bear market versus XRP. And guys, like, you want to talk about unbelievable. Oh, look where we're at in 21. This is like the gold-silver ratio being out of balance. Like, that's what I mean. Like, XRP, you look at it like gold, not because it's gold, but in the sense of the gold-silver ratio or the platinum-silver, you know. So this is like you're looking at silver to gold ratio, and right now, look at the ratio. If you acted like this was the silver to gold, the ratio is down 94% since 2020. 94! 93, I'm sorry. It's down 93% versus XRP from the top in 2021. That is insane. This is insane. Or December of January 20. This is insane. Can we at least agree this is insane? We've gone in cuckoo land now. I'm going to put that up there too. We are insanity. We're going insane. It's literally insane, the differential. XDC from the top. It's not as bad, but again, it's insanity how cheap these are. Like, if this was the silver to gold ratio, I wouldn't ever buy. It's this. I'm using. Tom. Oh, John Bugathorpe, thanks for being in Tom's Arm for over 1 year with the I Told You So Bad. And a $5 super chat. I think that's the first donation of the live. Excellent. Thank you so much for your generosity, my friend. Definitely is a motivator to see people pay it forward. Tom, thank you. Regarding the comment on XDC going to $5 to $50, we know that's not its ultimate in the long run, but what is? I honestly have no idea. I know in my heart that it's going to eventually get over $1 because of just how interconnected it is with the R3. It's just that is your central banking needs of the, like, this is the one that's the most locked in to that when it comes to all of the banking and finance. It's almost deeper than XRP when it comes to the world bank, and that's not almost deeper, it is, because XRP is focused on the central banks. Proton, XPR, formerly Proton, that's focused on in the USA, the credit unions, which is huge information that was discovered by a few that shared it with us in the lives. So, yes, this is live chat, J-Man. Live chat. Yes, indeed. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's the case to be made, guys. On XDC, if it had versus XRP, this doesn't mean that you're going to appreciate this much in your own holdings of XDC, but just versus XRP, at some point it's showing an 8x reversal if it breaks out at some point. Now, it could be all the way down here when it breaks out, but you're talking about from where it's at. Hell, let's just go from here and say that's in May of 29, so I don't think it's going to take that long necessarily, but you see what we mean here. You're looking for things that are at the bottom of ratios. Like, this is the same philosophy I used when I stopped buying gold and I was strictly buying silver when the ratio was out of whack. Now it's at, look at the ratio. Where the hell is the ratio? 72.1 on the gold silver ratio. It's a big difference now. When it was just a few months ago, we peaked out. Well, not a few months ago, but this is the highest we ever went. FYI, I wasn't even doing this yet, but I was buying silver in 2020. That is actually when I was. It was crazy how it dropped and then it suddenly spiked. But anyhow, it went up to 120. But for us, it went up here to 106, 105 when gold first started breaking out. So you could have bought silver if you didn't have any. And now that ratio at 105, now it's at 72. You know, and they need silver. The dealers need silver right now more than gold. It's very hard to get silver. So if you're bringing in ounces of silver to get an ounce of gold, so you bought, let's just say you bought 105 ounces. It's at 72.1. I always say for the coverage of, so that they can make their money, you're going to have to pay the differential. So let's just say you bring in 77 ounces. Give yourself a little wiggle room. Let's say you do 77 ounces to cover the overages. People are, oh my God, 7 ounces, oh, damn it. Or 5 ounces. You know, and I hear it all the time, but just hear out the whole solution here. So that costs you, let's just say, about $300 in fees. Well, now you still have, you bought it with 105. That means you still have 28 ounces of silver that you never have to touch. And they're going to hand you a bar of gold. You know, if you can find a place to do it. Everybody's like, oh, you can't do it. Yes, you can. In fact, they're desperate right now for silver on a lot of these places. And they have a lot more gold than silver on deck. So, if over $1 on XDC, I know you don't know exactly when, but odds on if it's before 28 versus later. Now, that's a good question. I would suspect that it would have to be before 2032, no doubt. I would almost be inclined to say it would have to be before December of 28 because I think our most parabolic movement that's left in the alt has to happen before the clarity comes in with regulations. Big Dog, have a good morning, my friend. I really appreciate you. And also being in town 6+ months with the XP predictor. That is super, super amazing. Just example, $1,000 algo, $1,000 XRP. 50% down on both. Better to push to algo, take loss on XRP, but make better gains in long run. Ugh. Theoretically, yes. Theoretically, yes, there should be more upside, but that's a very difficult conversation to have. And I'm not a financial advisor, so I really can't tell you either way. But apples to apples, like at this price point, you know, my heart races more for the potential that algo had. But don't say I didn't warn you about this morning pull down that happens right around this time. Isn't it convenient that Bitcoin, how much did it just pull down here while I've been live? We talked about every single day, almost clockwork. It does this on once the US wakes up, did we not? Look, the US wakes up, Bitcoin's at 92,300. Everybody's probably going to their phones and buying. Now all of a sudden, they take a shit, they could do the shower, the women put their makeup on and get ready, you know, looking very businesslike for their days ahead because they know the importance of actually looking the part, unlike a dude. We just don't get it for the most part. There's a lot in presentation, which we can learn from our female counterparts because they're much more in tune with that philosophy. So now everybody's getting ready, and now we just had this bearish momentum. Now it hasn't broken down, but this is where it's going to get a lot of people scared because, yes, It looks like a big breakdown, but it's not. Yeah, you have a double bottom. You have a left shoulder, right shoulder in the wicks. Now you have to prove that you can hold this. If you invalidate this and make a low, but I'm just telling you, if you make a new low now below 87,793, this is going to be big problems. Big problems, because right now you're telling us that you've made a higher low here because you can put this in a higher time frame. It's made a higher low. If it invalidates that low, because the daily closed on that. So right now it's telling us that it's in a series of higher. There's a low, higher low. Now, is this another series of higher? Well, you can't really say that because the weekly. Well, the problem with that philosophy is you can, because the weekly candle closed. So you had a low, a higher low, a higher low in the weekly. Now, if this makes a new low and breaks below, I think it's 85 on the weekly. We got to go to the other chart where it's not so drawn in, because this is how you could tell. The short term, yes, you can make a low, but to do it officially, you would have to break this, because the weekly did here and then it consolidated back down, and it's using. So here's the point. It's from the point of consistency of support. You're now forming a real uptrend because it bounced out of it. So now you have to make, you have to make a new low if this is breaking down underneath where the uptrend support would be, which means it has to break below this resistance or support. So if it makes a new low, the daily, yes, making a new low would be a lower high on the daily time frame, but ultimately on the weekly time frame, to make this a real lower low, we would need to break below 89,907. So knowing that, we can re-emphasize this, spread this up into that zone, and that's when you get into the red. And then it can pull you all the way through. I did it in a circular fashion on both sides so you can see. But that's what would pull us into. Oh, I love it. That's what could pull us into this. So I hope that helps. And the daily's oversold. I mean, overbought. So, we'll see. If you get past 83,907, that's when you have to start being cautious. It is what it is. It is what it is. So, and then I have it to the top side because you could still be in danger as it comes up through this uptrend, even if it's trading in here. And this is in danger, and if it falls out, you could technically wick down. There's always overexpansion when you have a drop. Or not, a contraction, I should say. And this is another reason why I think it's valuable for me to stay on in the mornings when I have the time uninterrupted. And maybe it's going to have to be 2-hour lives while my son's at school, because I would have normally logged off already and now look at the market structure. I think it's more important to be right here, right now, than try to do a second live later, even though I like doing both. It's just, I think there's something to this. J-Man, thanks for the $10 donation. Says, hey, Tom, do you give non-financial advice? I have some cash and I'm debating on what to put it on. Do you message privately in the membership? Thanks. I message in the Telegram a lot, but as far as I can only give you my own understanding of what I'm seeing. So my own personal targeting with extra cash, because everything over the top on weekly buys on Winning Wednesdays, I'm particularly focused on one sector right now, and that's the R3 Corda with expansion. So as long as it stays cheap like this, obviously right now I had a moment where we had a big push up and we didn't think we were going to before it dropped. So we sold that 7% run. And that doesn't mean it's going to be bought back cheaper than that run. It just means it'll be at least level with it. But what it meant is I gave myself an opportunity to watch this series of pull downs happen. So now, from when I sold it, it's down 11.8% where it's at currently. Best case scenario on a pullback, I'll get it down here at 4.4, but I'm understanding the fact that the daily's oversold, in a big way. The weekly, this would be the daily candle if it's going to have a reversal back up, that we're going to find out a lot about it, because this could be the start when everything else starts to wane out, but it's going to be very determined on the market. So that's why I didn't want to take the gamble yet. I want to see it prove it to me, and I'm going to be able to get it at least 10% more. So, I understand, Tom. is not a financial advisor, so he needs to be careful. I don't want to see him get into exactly. Exactly. Just the world we live in right now. I don't give financial advice. You know, now when we do the classes, it's going to be a little different because you're paying me for the direct understanding, but I'm not you're not going to come in there and say, "Should I buy this at that price?" That's not what the class is. I'll look at you like a real professor and say, "If you do that again, you're out of here." You can't be asking me that in the middle of a class when you have other students. Be respectful of everybody. Um, but that's where we go deeper into like psychology, and it goes a lot deeper. There's a lot more stuff that's going to happen there, and I'm actually pining for it. But it's a process, so it'll take a few weeks to get it all detailed out, and you'll see something where you can sign up and yada yada yada. And then once it's closed, it's closed. There's not going to be an open sign up period. There's no extra people that are joining in this. Once the class starts, that's your classroom, just like in a real class. And then when we get into the next section, maybe we'll go into another semester, and then we can do it again if it works good. So, but no, J Man asked it in a great way. I like how J Man asked it because he didn't put the pressure on me. He just said, I have this money, and he understands I have to answer it the way I do, but I gave him an honest answer about my belief with XDC and then other areas you could possibly look if we do get a big pull down in H bar and we do have this movement to the downside. Because I don't know if we're going to or not, because like I've said, I'll say it again and again and again. We're starting to get into these massively oversold areas, and the daily's starting to catch up, which gives us hope that we can keep coming down. Weekly's down there. Monthly is still got room to push down a little bit here. So that's why I feel like we're trying to have a defining moment, but are these wicks from October 10th going to fill through? Some of them already have. So we need to make sure that we're going to, normally you melt back down into that candle. We usually melt back down into it, so. But be that as it may, for XRP right now, we're trying to fight. We're fighting. It's a fight worth fighting. 206.34 in real time. Let me break this into a smaller a smaller time frame so it's easier to see. This is what it's fighting with. We're trying to make sure that we can hold this area. Now it's 205.58. So any kind of wick pullback like it is right now is fine. Even if it extends all the way through. As long as it pulls back up throughout the daily candle today, we're fine. This is all just retesting the possibility of breaking out into an expansion to retest that 265 area over the top, which would be the megaphone pattern that I am almost convinced we're in, and I've been for a while. That we don't know if it comes to 180. I would approve, and I would beg it, and I would make XRP's chart understand, if I could move it myself, how important that move to 185 is before a breakout. It is so vitally important to clear the last step of this pessimism out, and the ones who have the false hope, they will now be gone. And now it'll be just the real slayers will be in town. We got to get rid of this would be the last deceptive tactic. And everything looked good in the 4-hourly, and now all of a sudden here, we're getting to a point where we're getting pretty overbought here. Can we at least agree on that? So last time it was this overbought, XRP went from 221 and had a recorrection down to 199. So now we have to see, what are we going to do here? It's an interesting spot, especially on a Monday morning. Oh yeah, I forgot to find asked about that. I forgot somebody asked, but yeah, XYO is a great token. I haven't looked at it in a minute, but it is one of my favorite tokens in this sense of being it's a data oracle as well, but for the price point, and it's come up quite a bit, but it also went down quite a bit too. I haven't looked at it in a while. I mean, it almost I wish I would have been looking at it. I mean, it almost came down to the 003 area again. Weekly push back up. Daily's massively overbought now. Monthly oversold. Daily's not in a great spot. The lower time frames, they're getting to a point that they are getting closer to a correction to validate these moves out. You've had a little bit of wick exhaustion, and now you're climbing back up like this. This generally is the exhaustion phase, but we'll see. Maybe we'll get expansion out. Got a nice W reversal, back testing. Well, it should come back up and at least clear the wick. Well, maybe not. That was a nice move, though, off the bottom. No doubt about it. This isn't even the right chart. Yeah, 88% off the bottom. Which chart was I using? I know it wasn't that chart. That was a support resistance, just so I could see the lower levels. I had a beautiful XYO chart before. Maybe it was the KRAKEN one. No, because it... Well, maybe. Man, look at that downtrend. It's trying to break out of it. That is so true. That is trying to break out of it. Ah, there we go. I was going to say, there we go. I knew there was one. Even though it's off because I was on my phone, but it's fine. The basic principle maintains. We'll just reset it up. I kind of hate how that happens, though, from phone when you look at something because it's got a different distortion and the view radius is different. Because, I mean, it's there, but everything's off. Like, this should be at the resistance, as everybody knows, as it's marked out for the push. So, yeah, it actually came in, unfortunately, for me, because I wasn't watching it, perfectly the support structure and bounced off of it. 100% on the nuts at 4.9 almost, or a little bit lower. It did exactly what it should have. Support, 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 support. You buy support. Resistance, man, this pattern is very quickly. And it did it exactly like it should have when it broke down and went right to the support. Now it's just important to have this. So now it needs to get back over this, but that's a significant push. Just to get back there. That's significant. Somebody almost 2x to get back up there if it makes it push. But yeah, this is still well within the plans. It's just it's got this consolidation that technically the apex is somewhere around, shit, where would that put us? July of 27. We're getting close. That means we're around that 70% of the move. And you can see, I mean, I don't know if it's going to pull up or not, but you can see some ability here. I would like to see it clear out a little bit here after whatever this move decides, whether it's 1-1 or not. And then just clear out some structural dominance just so that it can maintain a little bit of a sell-off. But that's a phenomenal reversal. That's a phenomenal. Let's see. I don't call it buying the dip. Dollar cost average for me, just I mean, yeah, but yeah, that's another way to do things. Some people like the dollar cost average into things, no doubt about it. Let's see. The total crypto market cap is over 3 trillion though still, which if you watch any of my content from yesterday, I put out a short video. What the hell? Why would it go to the Dow? I put out a small video about this. I don't know why it's taking so long. It won't load up the total. It keeps going to the Dow, which is just another weird thing that TradingView does every now and then. It just can't figure itself out, and then you have to restart it. So right now, that $3 trillion is very important because that's a support line that we talked about yesterday that when it's on the top, it actually has good movement up. When it gets rejected on this line, it has good movement down. So right now, it's vitally important because when you came back here, just the movement. So it held support, came through, back down. Now it's trying to come back around. Could this be a retest up here? Or is this going to be confirmation of the further push back here into the apex, which is kind of unique if it fell through right now? You could get to the apex and it would hit there. And think about it. You would be right here on the announcement of the Fed rate cut. If it followed this trajectory in the next couple of days and fell down to here, the 2.6 area, that would be, to me, that would be great if it came down into there. But it's not quite down here. This is just pointing to the technical drop, obviously. I was just using that as a point of reference. But the pattern itself is down just a tiny bit farther. It has come outside of what looks like a rising wedge in the total as well. Never retested 354, 3.54 trillion. So if we make a break up, leading in the rate cuts, this very well could be, a rejection point. That would be Bitcoin. If we, just to be clear, if this came up to 3.54 trillion to reject on a rising wedge, this would be just Bitcoin going up to 101,000 approximately and getting rejected. That's all this would be. It does seem like that. It does seem. I do watch IOTA. I just can't own IOTA until it comes to one of my exchanges. I watch everything on my list. I watch very diligently. Look at this. XRPNW is falling off right now. This is what we've been waiting for. This continued fall off. Because I will invest in this when it's the right time. I want to invest in all three of these: XRPN, XRPNU, and XRPNW. The XRP Canary one I couldn't give a shit about. Let them deal with their own part. There's a reason I'm interested in those particular three acquisitions. So they're at Canary XRP ETF. It depends. If it were to fall down to like $10, okay. If this plays bearish and it breaks down and it ends up way down, okay, well, you might have caught me between a rock and a hard place where I have no choice. But well, it says 2 o'clock, but traditionally the Fed decision comes out at about 2:50 p.m., followed by Jerome Powell at 3 p.m. to have in a press conference. So technically, yeah, it says 2, but it traditionally never comes out until about 2:45, 2:50. It will be. Bearded Viking, Canary Capital one, the ETF, the Canary ETF, it will do a lot better in time. They just historically dump anywhere between 20 to 60% on ETF opens. I'm not joking. Or any kind of thing like these acquisitions, they generally dive after hitting a local top. When they come out, they dive anywhere, and I know it's a big range, but 20 all the way up to about 60%. So when you look at these, this one's already dived 32% from the top. You're talking about not very many days from October 31st, right around Halloween. That's 33%. That's a huge drop. I really like Canary too. That's why I have it on there. That's the only ETF one that I would buy. Besides, but I don't consider them ETFs, the XRP and XRPNU and XRPNW. The one you're going to be able to get warrants for, so they'll pay you a yield to hold it, but that's sometime in 26, so I don't know much more clarity besides that because they're not releasing a lot of information. So that's what the total. It actually came back and put a negative in. Wow. It did that pretty quick. Because on the day, it was all the way up to 3.12 approximately. It really came back down hard this morning. This is I would call this an inflection point right now if I had to use a word. We're in an inflection point. Interesting, an huge earthquake struck Japan today, 7.6 magnitude. Holy crap. Is there anybody from Japan in my audience that... I hope you're all okay as we pray to Yahweh and Yeshua for guidance through this very difficult time. And I've had people ask me who Yahweh and Yeshua is. That's Jesus Christ. We just call him Jesus Christ in the USA. But he's Yahweh, Yeshua, if you refer to him in some of the older versions of the Testaments. That's rough. Thanks for sharing that news. That is unbelievable. I haven't bought into it with the anticipation it was going to drop. We're on the same page, Bearded Viking, and I hope your little one is doing as good as the journey can go for your young one. I hope and I pray that good health today, at least if it's just today, today's a good day. Like my son, good day today. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, but today's a good day. And he blessed me because he woke up at 12 o'clock after sleeping for about 6.5 hours. And we were able to stay up together until about 3:15. Julie came out, and then I went to bed for 2.5 hours, 3 hours. He stayed up all, until school. He's at school right now, but my son likes to have his own day before school starts, and he is really good at school. As you know, we just enjoy every moment. Thank you so much. Yes, yes, yes. I know. I don't like to tell that your child. I mean, you can tell everybody the name your child's name just so you can put it out there and then I will reference it. But I like the people to put it out there a couple times before I start saying names, so I know if you're comfortable or not. Because I'll say a prayer, I'll say his name by, I'll say your child's name by prayer if you put it out there for everybody. Um, but I like to have confidence, especially with the younger ones. But yeah, I can't even imagine. We all have our own struggles. Cancer for my son that's not his struggle. Um, there was a scare when he was in there. His name is Mighty Marcus, and he is a mighty cancer warrior. I appreciate you all. Amen to that, bearded Viking. Mighty Marcus. Mighty Marcus. What a beautiful soul. We pray for guidance through Yahweh and Yeshua and our Lord and Savior, God Almighty Himself. We always ask for the easy, even though it's a rough road, the least route for pain. And that's the guidance. Like, and we pray on that. Amen. Like, I'm glad Mighty Marcus is having a good day. Oh yeah, John, I'm on the same page as you. I even stopped giving my son the Poly V that they gave him, and we found the actual herbal remedies that were actual herbs that they use instead of the manufactured in a lab, GMO version of the herb. So yes, we definitely tried things. It's difficult though. It's difficult for sure. Syrian says, sorry to hear Bearded Viking have fought it also 5 years ago. Well, bless you for still being here, Syrian, and we pray that you stay in, I guess you would call it remission, or stay away. It never comes back. Mm. There's so many rough things. And thank you, Syrian, for being a very trusted mod in here and in the Telegram, and also in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I told you so bad. See, you never know the plight that others have. That's why when we come in here, I think the positivity over negativity, I think just the gentle, kinder, and welcoming side of us is very much appreciated by many, many, many people. We don't know the plight, believe me. I go to school with my son, and they still don't understand that he has, like, most of the people don't, like, none of his classmates know that he deals with what he deals with. I mean, they know he's nonverbal and he's, autistic and things, but they don't know the other parts. They don't know why he walks weird or why he doesn't eat with them or, why he, sometimes when they walk, he has a car in his mouth, like he's biting on, they just don't understand certain things, but they've at least accepted him for who he is, which is, I prayed about that he would at least have some close friends that would look over him and give him guidance and that the kids wouldn't be mean to him, you know? And that's one thing that makes me sad, even thinking about it, is, things like that you can't control. But right now, so far, so good. But I would be happy with 250 at this. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you'll get it back. Trust me. It's not over yet. We're not done. The moment we're in is, like I said yesterday, it's the most opportunity to trap ever. That's why I told everybody, in my opinion, just let this play out and see. Don't buy anything until it breaks out and do something. I know someone with high blood pressure for 40 years and he fixed it in 3 days with cinnamon and sea salt. Healthy eating, man. Oh, you're not wrong, John. Like, it's done wonders for me. Like, it's done wonders for me going the holistic route and doing things for myself. My son is never been jabbed or anything like that, but I do believe it played a profound impulse on the way his brain developed after his car accident. Because when we got to the hospital, I didn't know, but by the time he got to the hospital and they were doing stuff because of the severity of the damage to his leg and injuries, they gave him like fentanyl or what, not well, equivalent. They gave him like the Dilaudid and stuff, but that was the first exposure he had to any kind of stuff like that. So I firmly believe it messed up his chemical makeup too. So it fucked him over a little bit more. Um, I know. Wait a minute. What did you say, Devin? Devin is our local resident with when it comes to Casper. I trust nobody more than I trust him on Casper. He's been so diligent in this up and down. Um, I appreciate Bearded Viking you sharing Mighty Marcus. Because now I can reference Mighty Marcus every day. I just didn't want to say whether you're even the gender because I just wanted to put it as vague as possible. I mean, I know you've told me Marcus's name in chat and through email and stuff like that, but I do use the highest level of discernment when I talk about people. Um, oh yeah, John, I've been for many, many years. It's helped me a lot. Like I said, I went through a severe injury when I was in my at 23, breaking my back and having all this stuff happen due to many car accidents that were none of them were my fault. But nonetheless, God put me in those positions for a reason. I had bad head trauma where I had frontal lobe damage and had short-term memory loss for a while, which was annoying because I couldn't remember shit. Then I couldn't remember shit, so I kept asking the same thing and then seeing people frustrated. You're like, what the hell, Dad? Why are you so frustrated? I can't remember this anyhow. So, there's a certain level of patience that needs to be shown in life too. My dad doesn't possess patience. I wasn't taught patience, but I've learned it as I've grown. My mom or dad don't have patience for that matter. They're like fish out of water when there's some kind of something happening. USDT dominance, so we need to pay attention to as we've had a nice W reversal, nice inverse setup, it looks like. And now in the shorter time frames, we're actually starting a little reversal. See, if this happens, and I think a little bit of this move was FUD. Can I explain why in a minute? And I kind of like this. Is anybody enjoying the fact that we're doing a 2-hour live today? Or is it too much? Because you noticed at night, my son with his schedule, it's harder for me to come on at night and do an hour when he's sleeping or with his routine. But it gives me more opportunity to do different kind of content during the day as well. But we're gonna get back into what Devin said. I haven't forgot about that yet, I promise. I must say I'm liking this. I think I'm liking this format better. Because then all of the content's within I don't know, we'll figure this out. But with USDT, the point is with the higher this goes, the more the users in crypto are trading out of their tokens and putting it back into stable. The higher the dominance is, the higher the exchanges have people holding money on the sidelines. And this looks like an inverse head and shoulders possibly here. And if it plays out, I've talked about maximum capacity for USDT could play out, in fact, as we had 3 bottoming features here. Remember how we have topping with head and shoulders? This is an inverse pattern reversing. And now if it plays out, we should come up to almost 8%. Beautiful Viking, thank you everyone so much. You're all so kind. Just thankful to have found such a kind and generous community. I'm hoping that someday with the investments we can enjoy life more. That's the plan. That's the plan. And I know you've heard me talk many times about having to, how I'm trying to, like, this is one factor of my life, but now the second factor is going to be, the second, and you know exactly what I know. Your son is not going to have the traditional life like others. So we're going to have to pick up the slack. And if we do it right, even beyond our years, or as many years as they have, because I really don't know. Me and Julie have talked. We don't know how long. If he's gonna, we don't know. We don't know what's gonna happen long term, but we do know for now, we're gonna make him as happy as possible, and we're gonna enjoy what we have, and then we're gonna try the best we can, the best way we know, and then if God grants our wish that he survives longer than us, we'll have him set up, hopefully. So that's the goal. I do the same for Mighty Marcus. In fact, he entered my prayer at church yesterday. I had a soul cleansing experience yesterday. I must say, I came on more humble when I was on last night. I noticed a profound difference in my attitude too. It was just different. It was just different. It was just different. There was something about it. I like Advent. There's something about Advent, and it's the second week of Advent we went through on Sunday. There's just something about the message that I've always liked. Each week you have a different message, and I've always appreciated it. What I don't appreciate at exchanges like Crypto.com and sports books like FanDuel doing their own Advent calendar for the gamblers. I don't appreciate that. It's not meant for gambling. It's meant for prayer and spirituality. Now it's being screwed up. Now you got Advent calendars for So you can get deals on sports betting, which you'll all be proud. I still haven't opened my app. So the only bet that's out there is Michigan to win the national title, but that's been out there for a while in basketball. So um it's all an illusion. Thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I told you so bad. Said you're a beautiful soul, Tom. Thank you. Yeah, when I was young, my mom always tells a story, which I still think is funny when she tells me it. But when I was young, my teachers always used to tell my mom I was one of a kind. I had a soft soul, and I was afraid to hurt people. But they just said I was. They never seen somebody like me when I was young, and people used to repeat it all through high school and as I was growing up. But now I see it in my son. He's the same way. I think we're more similar than I think. I just happen to not be nonverbal. I happen to learn how to the ability to speak. It took me until almost 5 years old to say my first word. I was very much, and then even after I talked, I wouldn't say anything. I knew how to talk, but I still consciously remember when I was young, thinking to myself, if I don't say anything, it's actually much easier because then nobody can yell at me. I can observe everything, and nobody's gonna know what I'm thinking. I used to have those conscious thoughts when I was younger, and it's actually true. Man, this is a scary moment for crypto. One of two reasons. One, I truly believe, like I said in the title yesterday, and I'll just show it. We're not going to go into the video. But the title that I had yesterday, I still think was a good title. And it did me a disservice because it only put it out this morning. It put it out 45 minutes after for my audience to see. And it posted it on my YouTube channel, even though you could still see it if you searched it. It put it out 45 minutes after I put my short out this morning. So it really screwed up the short video this morning because it stopped the reach. I'd be stunned if it even reached anybody. Yeah, 712, that's still not bad. But it definitely stunned it. I put it out 3 hours and 5 minutes ago. 20 minutes later, 2 hours and 55 minutes ago, they finally put my live out. Like, if that's not a kick, then you don't know what. But anyhow, I talked about XRP Retail's final warning, the real reason your window is closing. And you can use this for just more than XRP. But the reason the window is closing is because so many people are now set in the mindset that missed out in the prior to the bull market of XRP. They've been buying the dip leading into this bear market. So now you've got people sitting there once again, not just in 2018, now here again in 2025. They did it again. We've now got people trapped between 350 and 370. And at a certain point, it meets from, okay, I'm able to hold this and I'm only down 10, 15%. Or now we're getting to that peak where I'm down 45, 50%. And if it goes any farther than 50, it's basically a lost cause for most people. So they'll just sell out. They'll just sell out. So, Viking a little more on 4 Life transfer factor. Stopped a friend's lactose intolerance. Reduced his mom's nurse's breast lump. Stopped another severe pet allergy. Not crazy. Hey, wait a minute. Is that the name of it? I remember you talked about this before, 4 Life. Because I need to take it. I couldn't remember who talked about this. Now you're ringing a bell from a few months ago when you talked about this. John, is that so 4 Life transfer factor? Is that is I want you to expand on it. Is this no, John, I don't think you're a salesman or a con man. I think you actually are a genuine person. I've talked to you plenty of times. The name is Transfer for Life Transfer Factor. Now, does this come in like a powder? Does this come in like a supplement? Like, I'm sure I can go on Amazon and look it up, I would imagine, since they have individuals. The one reason I like Amazon is you have personal sellers on there too, where normally you wouldn't be able to find their stuff. 4 Life Transfer Factor. Transfer Factor. Okay, so you can buy this in, it looks like, so they do have it. You can buy it in powder, you can buy it in pills. Well, like not pills, but well, I mean they look like a pill, but they're more like looks like a gelatin casing. Yeah, there's chewable ones. So, so capsules you swallow. I'm gonna look into this. Now, do you take like the 4 Life Transfer Factor Plus, or do you take because the Plus has the zinc, which I'm assuming everybody would want to take the zinc. Oh, this is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing some of this. I would probably get because I don't like pills. I don't like to swallow things like that. Um, 4 Life Trifactor Formula. I don't, not bad. I'm gonna look deeper into that. I saved it on there. Thank you so much for that. That's the Mondo one. The one the rep recommended to prevent and fight. That's the Mondo one. So that's the one they recommended. John, so oh yeah, yeah, send me absolutely. Thank you. Oh, absolutely. I'm gonna make a phone call. I know you don't get recommendations, but I would tell them that you gave me the phone number and maybe they could give you special consideration if I bought something. But yeah, I would definitely update you on that journey. I am very much this is another part of me that I much love. So, but now I know we're getting long in the tooth, hour and 46 minutes. So, but it was good timing for us to be on together this morning because look how the market decided to start breaking down as we kind of theorized in the beginning of this live that was likely going to be the outcome. Because on Friday morning or Monday mornings, it usually this happens. Um, it sure has, John. Man, we got some smart people in here. Yeah, the great idea to analyze the crypto heat map, the liquidation heat map. We'll look at that. We'll look at the Bitcoin, or we'll look at the long short ratios. And let's see the fear and greed index real quick. What it is this morning. Yesterday it was 20, still 20. So still in extreme fear. Hopefully, if this is a two timing fake out here, we could have a little bit more push down in the crypto fear and greed. Um, let's see. So the 3 day is one way to look at. What is this doing? It's frozen. Let's refresh this. I gotta love this shit. So in the 3 day, up over 90. Well, we came up here and tapped some of this, but we didn't quite get up over the top. We got some pockets that built down below. A little bit of pockets here. There's nothing really well over the top. I still think it's better to look at this in the monthly to see where it's acting up in the last 30 days because there is a lot of stuff setting up. There's a lot of stuff setting up. Wow, I didn't know I was going to offend that many people by talking about that stuff. 30 people left because we talked about the, oh, interesting, the holistic stuff. That's interesting. 814 million in liquidation up there. 918 at 94,250. It's a big liquidity zone. And then you got pockets down here that we could technically wipe. We would need to invalidate this structure by coming under that W reversal. So, I mean, right now, it hasn't invalidated it yet. It's showing us, a way to set this up, actually. And it's not a surprise either that we came on twice or we came up twice in the last 24 hours or so with how out of distort the long short ratio was. There was shorts and there was several $billion between just Bitcoin and then another couple billion with Ethereum, a couple hundred million with XRP if we took the up route first, even if we were going to drop. So that's why we have to be very cautious here that this isn't the ladder to a further move down. Because for Bitcoin, and I know it sucks at 6 months, but you can see at 6 months different liquidity zones. If it even loads. Sometimes it won't show us. It won't give us the goodwill. Oh, you know what? That is my fault. People didn't leave because of that. They left because I said we're winding down here and getting towards the end. Every time I do that, people start leaving. I shouldn't say that. But yeah, look at the lack of liquidity in the yearly. We've took out, or in the 6 month, we've took out a lot of these levels. It won't let me move it around, or it'll just freeze. So basically, you have to get into the 3 month and hope that it refreezes. See, it's starting to having problems, so I'm just gonna refresh it myself and go into the 3. Yeah, I'm looking for some kind of confirmation here. Because if we don't get the confirmation, we're literally could be sitting on a 30% drop. I wasn't joking yesterday if this doesn't play out, and that would be on the altcoins. So XRP sitting at 210 when it peaked again. Take 30% from there. I mean, 10% would be like $1.91. So that could put you down towards $1.50 if it played out, if it went worst case. But look at the 3 month. You can see it's building over the top more than below. Let's see what happened when you go outside 3 or outside the 1 month. It always does that. They do not want you to see the information on there that's outside of 1 month. It's insane. It's been like that for a long time. I don't know if it's an intentional API issue or they're just, who knows. So that's with Bitcoin. With Ethereum, then we'll go into the long short ratio, I promise. With Ethereum, we pushed up towards this liquidity area, which there was a lot of liquidity here before. We never came all the way up to 3,300 and above. So that's definitely something to wonder if we're going to come through there. We still have this inverse pattern set up. So right now it looks like an inverse head and shoulders set up here. So we very well could be forming a reversal here and just trying to validate this move. Because there is a lot of liquidity above that we could technically tap. And because there's a dominance, we'll have to see the short traders here in a second. The long versus short ratio just to get a more unified confirmation here. But let's see. XRP in the monthly. Nice liquidity zone at 228, which I know MQT and myself have been talking about that area if it broke up. That's a big resistance zone. And then underneath, if we break through this area, then we would start tapping this $1.85. There's not a ton of liquidity though. In these solidified, we've been trading these zones for a while, but what I can say is in the 3-day, look how much we built down here. So a lot more longs are being taken out in the last 72 hours. That does speak to the fact that it would make a lot of sense to wipe these guys out before we move up. That's a lot of built up aggression in the last 3 days. You almost have as much as this entire spot combined in just this little fraction of a cent area. So it's possible. It's possible. They seem to like to dump it to the lower liquidity when the U.S. is trading. They like to tap the higher liquidity when Asia is trading. Then by the time we wake up in the morning, we think we're caught in the higher liquidity for us to just drop back in the lower liquidity zones. If you are watching, though, I would encourage you to... Oh, did I just delete that? I would encourage you to subscribe to the channel. We are just... We get a certain percentage of viewers that watch every single day, but they don't subscribe to the channel. I would love it if you would join the channel. Be part of our great channel. Be part of the team. Be part of what we do. Let's go back into the long short ratio. And I love this. I like looking at this. So let's go into the 24-hour. Ooh. Remember yesterday I was 53% short on Bitcoin? Now that the longs are taking over, guys. So yesterday there was over $2 billion if it went up to take out short traders. Now look at today, 50.11% going long, 49.89% going short, 44.52 billion long, 44.33 billion short. A flip. Bitcoin flipped. Ethereum, still the same. 48.31% long, 51.69% short, 36.33 billion going long, as to where 38.93 billion are going short. There is better than $2.6 billion if Ethereum takes the up route to liquidate over the last 24 hours. John Wiseman, good luck at your appointment, my friend. Hopefully everything goes well at the vet appointment. Yeah, we're winding down here. I'll be out of here in about 6-7 minutes. So I do appreciate everybody who is going through this first time longer live, I should say, today. And then for XRP, We're looking at 49.83% long, 50.17% short. Pretty even. 2.38 billion going long and 2.4 billion going short. So pretty flat. It's interesting though how Bitcoin flipped, is it not? Yesterday it was almost 53.25% were going short. Now it's flipped in one day. That's incredible. Thank you, Maryard. Now I really appreciate that. And thanks for being in town over 3+ months with the XP Meteor and being around during this live. You too, Syrian. Bless you as well. What a beautiful soul. 4-hour long volume plus 111.93%. Wow. Wow. Bitcoin over the last 4 hours. Wow. Did you see that? It says it's up 111.93% in the 4-hour longs volume. And the bullish says 18% bullish. What is your current Bitcoin sentiment? The bullish is 18%. Is that everybody's vote? If it's 18%, I'm going to say I'm getting more bullish here about a minute. Ooh, I wonder if XDC's on here. Some of them XDC's not on, which sucks. Yeah, let's go. XDC 50.24% going long, 49.76% going short. But look at how much there's not a lot of ability here, not a lot of trading. A total of 4.3 million long, 4.26 million short. For better terms, Bitcoin has that amount of movement, you know, when it blinks. So that's something. Ooh, you know what? I don't know if they have a XDC heat liquidation map. I almost want to say they didn't before, but I can't remember if they added it. I don't think so. Nope. It's amazing. After all this time, they still don't have one for XDC. You bastard. Nothing's really changed during this live. It's still in the same predicament we were in. And it's actually reversed down during the live. Look, we're actually at rejection points. So when we started the live, XDC was up towards trying to see if it was going to validate the back test. And right now it's falling through. And the 2-hourly suggesting could be more pain to come here if it gets rejected. Because then it's going to have to come down to this little short-term part at 484. And then if this broke, it would come down here. Honestly, I'm looking for an opportunity. If it fell down here, I'd be the happiest. Because the daily's oversold. The monthly is going to be oversold if it comes down there and drops that last, what is that, like 10 or 12% or whatever. Weekly's already oversold. With everything playing in this narrative, if we could fall out, oh my goodness. You guys, if we fell out here and it just had a crash across the board, I mean, this is only 8.8%. Let's just say we have 10% drop from now, before the rate cut decision that starts tomorrow, but ultimately we won't hear anything until it's supposed to be 2 p.m. As some of our great people in the audience have enlightened some that don't understand like the schedule. But traditionally they release the actual information around 2:45 to 2:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the second day of the FOMC meeting, which would be December 10th. And then Jerome Powell comes out immediately after at 3 p.m. to bore us for about an hour or so. Tell us a bunch of lies, but tell us the rate cut as well and explain it. So then we can see if he's hawkish or dovish. So and that plays a lot into, you know, our sentiment. But yeah, I really like what we're doing here. I like the way this live went. I think there was a lot of information. I think there's added value in the way we did it today. But there's still tweaks that need to be made. Many tweaks. We went through the total, so now the total 3 is down or up 9.2 billion or 1.09% at 871 billion. But it has come back down to earth here a little bit, and that 4-hour candle is not great right now. Made a new low. The good news is it's the beginning of the candle, so there's a lot of time. But it did break bearish in the stochastic. We had a top up here at around 881 billion. Just to come back down this morning on this Monday, about 11 billion. Nothing crazy. Nothing crazy. We need to maintain, even if we fall through here. We don't want to lose the big reversal here. Ultimately, if we make a newer low here, that's gonna validate the move down. So if we do come down below, let's just say 830, that's gonna be where you're like, uh-oh, we made that new low, and maybe, just maybe, in the smaller time frames, this could be a problem. But ultimately, to make that extreme low, you're gonna have to come below here. So you can put the extension zone, and this is why I like to do this. So yes, that would be bad. So if you're gonna want to hold this area, and then if we clone this, it's really gonna be, you got to come below here to make that new low, and then you come up here to be the higher low, and then you can even start down here where it started low, higher low, higher low, which fell outside the pattern for a minute. So 771. If it falls below 771, that's a problem. And that would probably indicate a much bigger drop if you put in a lower high there. Because right now they're high, or a lower low. Right now they're higher lows. Because right now, one could argue, if this breaks down, this could be the epitome of the time when we end up making a lower high finally. We don't know yet. It's all been higher highs and higher lows. If we make a lower low before we make a higher high, that's a bearish sign. We haven't done that yet. We've just been in a series of lower highs and higher lows, which is a converging pattern. And until one side or the other makes, so if it's a higher low, that ultimately makes a lower high, or I mean a lower low, it breaks bearish. If it's a higher high, that's ultimately made here instead of, we started here. I guess they're higher highs and higher lows. I don't know why I said lower. That's not what I meant. But then again, this is the resistance up here. It's been a nightmare. Let's just put it that way. We can't afford to make a lower low. How about that? No more lower lows. But I'm still under the belief that they're taking the route of most pain. So this is a painful process, and it's going to continue to be a painful process throughout the process. That's why it's a process. So with that being said, bless you all. I got to go. 2 hours and 2 minutes. Tell the wife, thanks for letting us keep you for an extra hour. Yeah, she actually thought it was a good idea to do this for a couple hours instead of splitting it up twice a day when my son's home with all of his, volatility, let's just call it, throughout the day. So she thought it was a good idea to test it out and see the interest. And the others is up 2.01%. Remember, that's all crypto outside the top 10. And it had a nice little surge to start the morning at 215, but it has come down not much, 5 billion. So we're going to see a decision here. Like the 4 hourly's breaking bearish. Would it be a spot here? We don't know if it'd be a spot to break down. We're going to have to take out this 202. And then it could very well come to 188. That's for sure, because it's at the bottom of the channel. But the top of this little falling channel is also, it's still a move to the top side as well. So, but that's neither here nor there. I got to go. Thank you all so much. Be blessed. And this was a lot of fun, actually. This was actually a lot of fun. And thank you, John, for sharing that information with everyone.